My grandpa Sexton was a farmer through and through. He was a hard-working man with a great sense of humor and great values. He provided for his family by working off the land, and he also made sure his community never went without. My grandpa was born on August 25th, 1942. He was the first of 15 births to actually be born in a hospital, and is listed on his birth certificate as one of 3. He's the only surviving baby of triplets. Times were really different then. They were a lot simpler. He married my grandma on October 13th, 1961, and 5 days after she turned 16, they had their first baby in August of 1963, my Aunt Clara. They have 5 biological children and 2 unofficially adopted children that they took under their wing as their own and treated as their own children. My mom was their middle child. My grandpa, he was an amazing man. I loved him to death. He taught his children the importance of helping others, and in turn, they taught their children the importance of helping others. Some examples of this are, when my mom was a child, they always planted corn every year. They planted all sorts of things, and it was known within the community that the outside 2 rows of the cornfields were for anybody who may need it, who was going to go hungry otherwise. They were also a dairy farm and had dairy cows, and they had a big bulk tank that held the milk, and a milk truck would come and get it each week, and they'd be paid for the milk. Well, during the winter, when it snowed really bad, the milk truck couldn't get in to get the milk, and they were paid for the milk and told to dump it, and instead of wasting perfectly good resources, he went door to door and handed it out to his neighbors and made sure that they were set for the winter and set for the week. Didn't have to go out and brave the storm to get milk or whatever. They also raised whatever types of vegetables you could think. And they had 2 acres gardens. They had 2 different ones. And 1 acre of one of those gardens was just potatoes. And whenever they harvested, the field was plowed and such, and it was known within the community, if you needed it, you could take what you needed. He also taught my mom and her siblings the importance of remembering who they were and whose they were. Basically, when you go out, make me proud, make yourself proud. And now every time me and my sisters leave home, my mom reminds us the same thing. My grandpa died November 25th, 2015. He had been in the hospital since early October and was rapidly declining, and we kind of knew that he wasn't going to see the outside of a hospital again. He had some good days and some bad days when he was in the hospital. He had days where he said he needed to plow the fields, and he insisted that he needed to get up and go do what he needed to do. He had days where he was angry and had no idea what was going on, and he was in pain, and those were really hard days. And he had days where he joked about writing people out of the will because they had ticked him off or whatnot, and he was constantly joking about that even before he was sick. I'm going to write you out of the will. You're out of the will. Oh, you did something good for me. You're back in the will. He was a funny, funny man. And the blue socks that they give hospital patients, at least in our hospital here, that have the grippy bits on the bottom, I picked on him and called him as sexy socks, and he joked with me and told me he'd write them into the will for me. Well, when we went to say our final goodbyes and collect his belongings, we found a pair of the sexy socks that had not been used. And they're kept on a bookshelf in our living room, and we pass them every day, and when we think about them, we smile and think about how he joked until the end. His last words to me were, "I love you, see you later," when I visited the night before he passed away. And I didn't realize those were going to be his last words. He waited until all of us had gone home to pass away in the early hours of the morning. And every Thanksgiving now, we celebrate his life because that's around the time that he died. He was an amazing man, and father, grandfather, just person in general. He understood the importance of helping others and taught this to their children, and they in turn taught it to their children. And I will teach it to my children.